Greetings, I'm Tieesha, S6 back with another great video. I'm joined tonight with Brother Willie Cartwright from Save to Sane channel here on YouTube, also the author of Save to Sane, My Journey Away from Christianity, and has the Black Church been detrimental to African Americans. Brother Willie, how are you doing today?
I am awesome. I am awesome. How about you?
I am doing great. Another beautiful day in Georgia,
Oh
like
yeah.
in the upper 70s. So
So you getting used to this, right? Because you came from what, Seattle by way of Cincinnati by way of Hawaii, or
I've
how have
been
you
all over
been?
the dang
All
place,
over.
all over it.
Yeah.
So Georgia is what I love. I love the humidity while other people complain. My hair loves it. My skin, they're like, you have a glow. I'm like, yeah, I'm out here trying to get as black as I can by the end of the summer.
Yeah, I'm good. I've been in the South all my life, so the humidity as I get older, I don't like to sweat.
Hmm.
My wife and I actually we go back and forth about we went out to Vegas during the summer one year, and it was 104 in the morning, and I was like, "Yo, I'm good with this because I'm not sweating. I know it's hot, but
The dry heat.
I prefer that to this." My wife was like, "No, no, 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 no. I prefer the humidity to the dry heat." So we go back and forth, but yeah, but I overall, I think the South has the best weather overall. I mean, you can't. I mean, you got the four seasons, but you have mild winters. I mean, it's 77 degrees today, March 2nd. I
Yeah.
mean, it's crazy. It's beautiful outside.
Overnight, it was like what in the 40s, 50s. It was a
Yeah,
little nippy overnight, but it was okay.
yeah. So this is good. This is good.
And shout out to Mrs. Cartwright. I received my shipment today. I'm excited to try Hydrotherma Naturals, your natural hair care line. I
Yeah.
can't wait. So thank you for that.
Thank you for being a customer. So yeah, I will definitely tell her that you got it. So we appreciate you working with us. So we
And
thank
shout
you
out to
so
everybody
much.
watching. You will see that my new hair care regimen or wash day journey. You'll see that video coming up soon because I am excited to try new products and also healthy products. And because that's one of the things that I've been on after, I really took control of my health, my mind, my well-being, all that good stuff. And speaking of good stuff, can you tell us I saw your post on Facebook and I got to go back and like it because I saw it like as I was doing some other stuff. But can you tell us the good news about your book and the accomplishment that you just had?
Yeah, so the book can now be purchased in Nubian Bookstore. It's for those of you who are in the Atlanta metro area. It's in Morrow, Georgia. It's near, I think it's South Lake Mall. Is what it's close to, but Nubian Bookstore. Go in there, ask for the book. Also, look around. This is a great brother who's running a great business. He has a lot of good stuff in that. I didn't have the time to stay and look. I would have bought a lot of stuff. We ended up buying a couple of books from him while we were there. But awesome, awesome brother. So the books are there. Go and pick one up if you're close by. So shout out to him. I think it's Mr. Williams.
Yes.
Yeah, Mr. Williams. Shout out to you, brother. Much appreciation. Much success with your store. So you guys go and support Nubia Bookstore in Morrow, Georgia. My book is available there now. Thank you so much.
And shout out to him. I did a video there a couple of months ago. I took a trip over there and checked him out. And every time I go there, I drive at least a yard. So
Yeah, I told him that you
yes,
sent me that you sent me there, and he remembered you right off the top.
yep,
So yeah, absolutely. So yeah, good deal.
good
So
place to be.
yeah, and that's how we work with one another and help. I mean, my wife and I, we've been on this kick for years and years and years about supporting one another. This brother has every book. If you are Greek, I am Greek. He has a ton of Greek paraphernalia in there, a ton of books, ton of other stuff that you can get. This store is nice and clean. So it's fantastic place to go. So I can't say enough about it. And thank you, Taisha,
You're
for mentioning
welcome.
that. For mentioning that. So good. So we good.
So shout out to everybody here who has joined us tonight. Shout out to Two Black for You. We got Papa Soul Searcher back. How are you doing, Christine Williams? So tonight we came. Well, actually, you came up with this topic, and I just been pondering on it for this past week. And I'm pretty sure you've seen the post come out where people are like praying harder than ever. And we did our video last week about the ridiculous things that religious folk post on Facebook. But recently we have people praying for their enemies. You got people just praying for the sake of praying for attention. And tonight's topic is prayer. Is it beneficial, a waste of time, or is it just, a sign or an act of surrender? So, one of the other things that came up when I was thinking about the idea was the prayer placebo effect. And I know that you have some background on prayer and you leaving religion and how that impacts you today.
Yeah, absolutely, and we'll get to that. The whole placebo thing. I kind of wanted to kind of tell everybody about how this came to me. This idea to do this tonight, and it's kind of ironic. I was on Facebook and I came across one of my fraternity brothers. I don't know him personally, but we were in the same fraternity, and he's in Birmingham, Alabama, and he mentioned about all the crime going on in Birmingham. Obviously, there's crime in every city, especially the major cities. But he talked about the crime and the things that had recently happened there, and he wanted all the people, particularly all the fraternity brothers in the Birmingham area, to come out with him to a church on that upcoming Saturday and have like a prayer vigil. And so when I saw this, I made a comment. I said, "Oh, so we praying again?" And I just kind of left it at that. And then he came back and said, "Oh, a brother can't get support from a brother. Oh, we don't, we're praying, blah blah blah." I said, "No, brother, it's not that. It's that's seemed to be that's all we do. That's the first thing we turn to. I like to see us do more things that are practical." And before I was kind of saying, okay, before you get into what have I done, I said, "Brother, I have a track record of working in the community and doing those things." He kind of came back with all of these stories about how prayer worked and how he almost died. I think he had cancer, and he prayed and came through it. It was a long, long tirade of telling me about what he has been through and how God has saved him through prayer and all this other stuff. And at the end, I told him, I said, "Brother, listen, I'm not trying to disrespect you. I'm just saying that oftentimes our community turns to prayer. And if you look at where we are socially economic, obviously prayer hasn't worked. If you ask our ancestors who were forced into slavery and 200, 300 years of slavery and Jim Crow and segregation, obviously prayer does not work. And so that's where kind of the topic came from, because prayer for us as African Americans is huge. I mean, we don't do anything without prayer or mentioning prayer. I mean, everything from the smallest to most minute thing to the largest, the biggest of things that happen in our decisions that we need to make in our life, we always begin with prayer. And so today I wanted us to discuss, does prayer really work? I mean, are we doing it just to be doing it? This is something that is a habit. Does it really work? Do we even care if it works? I know a lot of us believe that it works, but if you believe that prayer works, where's your objective evidence that prayer works? Not the anecdotal evidence of, well, this is what happened to me and this was my experience, because we're going to talk about that as well, what those experiences really mean. But yeah, so that's kind of where the idea came from. And so I'm ready to go with that. Uh,
There's
I'll,
one section, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
There's one section in your book where you talk about where you were almost at the point of homelessness. And there are people who, hey, God saved me from this, or God put me through this to get my attention. And you actually have stated that you stated you would shower at the local YMCA, and then you constantly prayed to God to change my situation. Things eventually got better, but it sure wasn't. But I wasn't sure if it was because God answered my prayers or if I had just worked myself out of that situation. And that's one common thing that people say: pray until something happens. Prayer never fails. It's you're on God's time, or things like that. What are some misconceptions on prayer? How prayer it I think you talked about this last week, where if everything is good, prayer worked. If everything is bad, it just wasn't your time at that moment.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's is as long as you continue to live, uh, then it's going to be an appearance that prayer works, because things will eventually change, and in almost every situation, things will get better. Now, whether you pray along the way, I mean, that's a question as to whether or not that prayer worked. Um, but like Christina said, yeah, I worked myself out of the situation. So this was right after college. I had taken a job in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and I was working, but I had overextended myself. Ended up getting into a lot of financial difficulties and troubles, and got kicked out of my apartment. And I was young. This is 30 years ago. I didn't know any better. I was renting a lot of stuff. They came and got all the stuff. I got kicked out of my apartment, and my credit was shot, so I couldn't find a place to live. I ended up living in a hotel for a while. And then I was in a hotel for a while, months and months and months. One of those motels, not a hotel, but a motel. And then after that, I got a room. I rented a room from a guy in a house, and you could at night you could hear him beating his girlfriend or wife or whatever. But it was just a room with a cot in it to sleep on. It was no stove, no shower, none of that. And so I was really into weightlifting back then. At that point, so I would go to the Y workout every day after work, and then I would take a shower there. And then that's kind of how it was. But yeah, but through the whole process, I'm praying because that's what I've been taught, and I've been raised in the church. My mother was devout, strongly devout, religious, and so I did what I thought I knew to do. Um, Along with working my way out of the situation, I was still working. I was a professional. I dressed up every day and went into the office like nothing was going on, but I was working, and I eventually saved money, did all the right things, got a duplex, one side of a duplex, and then worked my way up to an apartment. And then eventually I got an opportunity to move, to leave Chattanooga, to move back to Birmingham for actually for law school. So I went to law school for a year. But so yeah, the story. So yeah, absolutely. I was in that situation. Um, I had grown up. I grew up, pretty much in a similar situation. We moved about 10 times. Really had difficulties. No lights. Just a typical thing living. We grew up. I mean, originally we were in public housing for about the first 10, 11 years of my life. But yeah, but and I said that to say through the whole process, my mother's constantly praying. And I can tell you through all of the prayers that my mother did and all of those years of praying, her situation never got better. My mother passed away in 2017, on public assistance, no money whatsoever, in really, really bad health. And all this praying that she had done through the years, it made no difference whatsoever. So yeah, so that's kind of the story behind that, and I wrote about it in the book as well. Because one of those things, Christine, religion is a taught behavior passed down through the family, friends, etc. Absolutely, Christina. Absolutely, it is a learned behavior. It is a taught behavior. It is a it's so ingrained in us. It's like if you don't pray, I mean that's like a major violation in a black household. If you don't say your grace before you eat, if you don't pray, if you don't say your prayer, I mean they start you off as kids saying your prayers at night, right? And then we go through this whole life of praying. Everything is about, well, pray for this, pray for that, pray for this, pray for that. So yeah, yeah.
I'm a
Taisha,
bad influence nowadays where like people who are around me, they are so conditioned to pray before they food, and I'm just sitting here like I bought it. So, I'm gonna eat. I'm not gonna, and I just sit there and look at everybody else while they're doing their grace. So I'm like 3 bites in, I'm like, I'm not doing that. And that raised the question, besides like praying over food, what are some other prayer habits that either you had or you had to break free from, or you notice that people do when it comes to praying?
yeah, it's just the whole praying about every single thing. It's we don't move without praying. We don't make a major decision about praying. I read the comments. Finally, call this BS praying out. Absolutely, as that Tron 7,000. Absolutely appreciate that. Yeah, that's what we doing. We calling it out, bro. We calling it out. But yeah, again, our community, again, we live through the prism of religion, Christianity, the Bible, prayer, Jesus, God, the whole nine. I mean, that's our everything. And so every decision that we make, we pray about it. I mean, if everything, going to school today, you tell somebody, well, I'll see you tomorrow. Yeah, if God willing, let me pray about it. Start a business. I remember a story my wife told me. She said that there was a lady who wanted to write a book. And she said, been wanting to write a book for years. And my wife asked her, well, why haven't you started? She said, well, I'm waiting for God to answer my prayer to tell me when I'm ready to start. And so now here's a lady who, if she don't get that, what she think is answered prayer, she might go to her grave with what could have been a fantastic idea for a book. And so it's that kind of stuff. Like, again, we don't move without prayer. It's just, so I also want to talk about some of the other stuff, and I'm trying to read. So Papa Soul Searcher, was that religion serves its purpose, control, but there will come a time when we have to graduate and understand that the teachings are really teaching Hebrews 6:1-7. Once you know, you know. Okay, yeah, absolutely. I don't, but here's the thing. I'm not sure that we as a community are ever going to get away from prayer. Um, Only because we get what we believe to be favorable outcomes just enough to where we can say that prayer works. Regardless of the work that we put in, we get favorable outcomes for stuff. It's almost like, so what we do is we cherry pick. We can say a prayer for 100 different things that we want, right? 95 of those things we don't get the favorable outcome, but the
Mhm.
five that we do, the five that we pick and say, see, prayer works. Prayer works. So yeah, so it's crazy. Tieesha, did you have anything before I continue? Because I can go on forever.
Oh no, no worries at all. Like that's one thing that we do need to talk about. So thank you, Tron, and the comments are amazing. One weird thing that I used to do, and this is so a word backwards. Before I went to work, like in the military and on the police department. Well, in the military, they used to give us these orange or camouflage mini Bibles. And so I used to
Really?
always, yes, I used to carry one in my pocket. I carry one at all times. Like if I did not have that orange little mini Bible with me, I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have a bad day. I kind of just thought doom was coming to me. And then on the police department, I think at graduation, someone had gave me the police officer's Bible. And every night when I got in my car to log in and go to work, I would pray. If I was running late or something like that, I sat there and I did not start the engine until I prayed. And that was just so crazy because I eventually learned that the ones who were also doing dirt and evil as hell, they were saying the same prayer out of the same book. They had the same Bible on their dashboard. So yeah, that was something stupid that I used to do.
So let me ask you. So in the military, was that not some kind of violation? What if everybody in the military wasn't Christian or didn't go by the Bible? That's not some kind of violation that
No,
they?
as far as the Navy, that's the branch I was in. Before I joined at 17. So I went to MEPS, and one of the detailers there, I didn't know that they were completing like my, they call them dog tags. I call them toe tags because if you was to get killed in battle, they put on your boot that shit toe tag. Mine initially it was no religious preference, and I was kind of embarrassed by it because everybody else they put something on theirs, and that's one of the factors that pushed me into getting baptized in boot camp. But yeah, it was just like the plantation on Sundays. You had a break, you can go to church, whatever religious service you want. Yeah, the chaplain is on board, and those who work for the chaplain, those were religious program specialists, I believe that's what they were called. So yeah, religion flowed freely in the Navy.
Wow. So even on the dog tags, they put your religious affiliation.
Yep, yep. I can't
I
find
never
mine.
knew
I
that.
haven't seen mine in a decade, but yeah, mine said no religious preference, and I wish I had kept my life just like that, but I did because I got
No, it's
baptized in boot camp.
it's all a learning process. I've been
Hmm.
baptized, I think at least twice, maybe three times. It's starting to all run together. But yeah, I had a fraternity brother when we pledged. He kept a Bible in his pocket. like a little small tiny Bible in his pocket, no matter what we were doing. And I kind of teased him about it for years and years about keeping that Bible in his pocket. And even now, 30 years later, we had a conference call sometime last year, and I think a couple of brothers asked him, "You still carry that Bible around?" Absolutely, yes, I do. I carry it around. So yeah, so it's those habits that we have, and we never really think as to whether or not. I think sometimes well, not sometimes, but we believe that these things work without any hard evidence. And so whenever I get into a discussion with people about, prayer, and I've done videos about prayer not working, and I've had people come to me, and I said to them, I said, okay, prove to me that prayer works. All they have is anecdotal evidence, which is my personal experience. And so one thing that I said to somebody, and I said this to everybody who brings this as an example of prayer working, I said, regardless of what has happened to you in your life, it is not original. You're not the only person. I don't care if you beat cancer. I don't care if you was in a fire and you survived. That you're not the first person to experience that. And you're not the first person to experience that. And many people who have experienced that, other people who have experienced that, have been people of other religions or no religion at all. And they will attribute their survival or their coming through it or whatever it is, the desired favorable result, they will attribute that result to their prayers to their God. Or to the non-believers, they will attribute it to something else. So again, your anecdotal evidence of this has been my experience, that's why I know prayer works, is not objective facts. And so we get into people have been doing studies on prayer since the 1870s. I think it was the first study done. The One of the most recent ones was in 2006. It was a very extensive one done by the Temple Foundation. The Temple Foundation, if you don't know, is an organization it's I think it's John Templeton. Anyway, they used to be part of a finance and investing firm. I mean, the history behind it, but the foundation that did the study, they try to link spirituality and science together. So they sponsored this study, 1,800 people, and in the study, they divided the group up into three groups. One group was I think it was you're not being prayed for. The second group was you might get prayed for, but then they did pray for these people. And then the third group was you might get prayed for, and they did pray for the people. And they all had the same kind of medical condition. It was like a heart condition that they all had. And it took place in, I think, 6 different medical facilities across the country. And a lot of the people who participated, the doctors, they were from some of the best schools in the country as well. And through it all, the numbers show that there were no discernible differences between the people that got prayed for, the people that didn't get prayed for, the people that knew they were going to get prayed for, the people that didn't. So there were no discernible differences for it. And so, again, the whole placebo effect, which is what you came up with, Tieesha, as the thumbnail for this, it really is a placebo. Now, here's what I will say for prayer. Prayer will do make people feel better. If that's really what that's your thing, it makes you feel better. So that can be viewed as something that's positive about prayer. But walking through a park makes you feel better. Listening to music makes you feel better. Talking to a loved one makes you feel better. Whatever it is, it can make you feel better. But for a lot of people, they rely on prayer. But the question is, does prayer make an objective difference in the outcome or desired situation that you're looking for? And I'm missing all of these, so maybe we can go back and answer some of these comments that's coming through. But yes, I wanted to just add that. So again, I always want to make sure that our listeners know, the people who are watching this, understand that we're doing this from a standpoint of what is substantive, what can you get out of this. And so when you tune in, I want you to understand and know that, okay, this is just not, okay, we're just throwing this subject out here. So from a practical and substantive standpoint, we know through studies that prayer does not work from that standpoint. And obviously you can do, I'm sure there's been studies out there from believers who've done studies to show that prayer does work. But the study that I'm talking about, it's a unbiased. Actually, the actual participants, the people that directed it, not the doctors, but the people that directed the prayer, these were all clergy people. So that led to this study, the more credibility to the study. And any other study that you would read about, it'll tell you that there's no discernible difference in people who get prayed for and people that don't in prayer. Same thing with this intercessory prayer where you need 15 people. I've always asked somebody, okay, I said, so
Your
what
prayer
is,
warriors.
yeah, what is the number that God is looking for? Do you need 5? Do you need 10? What's the number he's looking for before he acts on your behalf or before he does what it is that you want him to do? I mean, what's the magic number? And finally, I'll say this. I always use this analogy about prayer and praying to God. If you have a child and you came home and you walked into your child's room, and your child had got, wrapped around, he had a cord wrapped around his or her neck and was struggling to breathe. That child would not have to ask you or beg you to help him. You would automatically see that that child is in distress and you would do everything in your power to help that child. So why is it that we have a so-called loving, all-powerful, all-loving, all-knowing Father, God, who knows the things that we need, especially from a standpoint of our suffering, but yet he does not do the things that he needs to do to alleviate those suffering. And we have to pray, which to me is another word for begging. We have to literally beg him, plead with him, pray, and even get others to come in and pray with us to beg him to do the things to alleviate some of our suffering. And it still doesn't always happen. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense if you look at it from that kind of practical standpoint. So that's the analogy that I always use. People who you love would never have to ask you to help them if they're in a situation that they're suffering and you have the ability to help them. It's just automatic. So why is it different with this God that our people serve? So I just wanted to add that.
That made me think of when I was younger. My mom, she had a habit of calling this like toll free number. It was like a prayer line, and she would
Yeah.
call them for prayers. Whatever she was going through, most of the time it was about money because we didn't have any, and she had no ambition to make more money. So she would call them like my bills is due and this and that. So yeah, she'll do that, and so they would mail us a whole bunch of personalized, prayer calendars, prayer things. And what she'll do, she'll take the prayers on the outside of our front door. I guess that was to ward off evictions, I guess, because we were never evicted, but that's what she would do. And I think of like people who take physical things. I forgot who it was. They mentioned like a rabbit's foot, and the televangelist who will send you the prayer cloth, the magical spring prayer water. And you recommended that I go to TikTok and check out some of the out there prayer religious Christian videos. And one, I saw this one lady, she showed how she made herself a prayer closet, and she went into the closet. And so what do you say about the time devoted to prayer? I know that you stated if it brings you comfort, that's good for you. But can you say that prayer is kind of sort of a waste of time?
It's absolutely a waste of time uh, from the standpoint of everything outside of bringing you temporary comfort, and even in that, um, it depends on what it takes away from you. And so one of the things that I try to do, especially in the book, I try to talk about why we shouldn't be doing these things, or why we should question these things, or why we should think second about these things. And so what's the detriment? How does prayer negatively affect us? So from the first thing that I look at is that it gives us false hope. I mean, absolutely, it just gives us false hope. Um, if you look at the state of our collective community over the 400 years that we've been in this country, we are the most praying people in this country, probably on the planet, but certainly in this country. And look at where we are. Um, and so I know people come on and say, well, prayer got us through slavery. We were slaves. Technically, we were slaves from 1611 and even before the end, because some of us were about here, some of our ancestors were about here prior to 1611, all the way up through the Emancipation Proclamation after the Civil War, 1865 or whatever. And then even after that, we endured lynchings and Jim Crow and the whole 9 yards up until the Civil Rights Act, I think in 1964 or whatever. Um, so it clearly it didn't work. If you're an enslaved person and you're praying to God for freedom, and your enslaver, your oppressor is praying that you stay a slave, who prayers are getting answered? It's certainly not yours. And so Sharon says, I was just saying that it gave our ancestors hope. Um, our ancestors, they didn't know any better. They It gave us hope because that's the only thing that they gave us. They, being the oppressors, gave us this God and this religion as in hope. It wasn't hope that saved our people. It was being resilient,
Mm-hmm.
because what our ancestors hoped for, what they really hoped for, was that enough of them would live and survive to keep the bloodline going, to keep, enough of that they would survive long enough to have kids, and that those kids would survive long enough to have kids, that at some time in the future, way off, way when they're dead and gone, that we would be, free and treated as other human beings. So, prayer didn't work at all. If that's not the kind of prayer that I want to, that's not the kind of results that I want to see from prayer. I don't want to see me pray. Imagine the first slave, 1611. He went through 20, 30 generations before his so-called prayers were answered. And then look at our current conditions now. Even though we are technically free, look at our social economic conditions as a collective community. We're still at the bottom in almost every category that there is. So, but yet again, we're still praying, praying, praying. So it gives us false hope. The next thing it does, it serves as a substitute for doing real work. So when we will say, when there's an issue in our communities or our life or whatever, the first thing we say is pray about it. And for many people, that means pray and leave it in God's hands and let God take care of it. Well, we don't actually do anything. So the accountability is not there. The responsibility of us actually doing the things that we need to do to make our personal situation better and together make our collective situation better. Prayer takes that away from us, because now we got an external force that's gonna fix everything, and that external force hasn't fixed crap.
Just make
And
a wish.
just make it with. So yeah, and then Amir L, absolutely, prayer makes us pacifists. Absolutely, I think that this is one of the most important things, but one of the most overlooked things in our community. Those who treat us wrong as a collective community, they know one thing for sure: no matter what is done to us, we will do two things. A, we will forgive. B, we will pray. And that forgiving and praying scares no one. It is not a threat to anyone. So they will continue to treat us the way they treat us, because they know that we will always do those two things. We will forgive them and we will pray, whether we pray for the situation or whether we pray for them. So it takes away us being it makes us docile. It makes us a whole lot more docile. Again, it takes away our independence as well, because again, we're relying on something external to us that hasn't worked. And so, those are some of the dangers of prayer in our community, and us relying on prayer. And I think that's something that we really should all take a look at. The only thing that has stayed the same with our community, as we're still at the bottom of every category, but the thing that has stayed the same along with that is our devotion to the church and to prayer and to God and Jesus. So we have to start looking around and say, wait a minute, something we're not doing right. If everything is about, well, let's pray about this. When other communities have issues in their community, they get up, they unite, they come together, and they do practical things to fix those problems. We get up, we come together, and we pray. We get up, we come together, and we pray. And the same thing happens to us all over again. Nothing gets done and nothing gets better. But we say, yeah, God, God's gonna fix it. He fixed it. So yeah, that's a really a pet peeve of mine within the whole religious thing is that our reliance on prayer. Um, I watched my mother for years and years pray, and she, like most people in our communities, she went from one emergency to the other emergency. She went from one, miracle to the other miracle, so to speak. She prayed, and money came in just in time to keep the lights on, or the lights went off, and a neighbor let us live with them for a while, or whatever it was. But that's going from one emergency to another emergency. But yet, this God understands what you need, and you have it's sad that you have to even beg and ask this God who's supposed to be your provider, as they say, and he's not even provided. And even when you ask and pray and go gather up all your friends and all your prayer warriors, your prayers still don't get answered. So yeah, and so to those of you who are listening or might see this later, and you're gonna say, well, I was on my deathbed in a hospital, and I had cancer, and they told me there was nothing they could do, and I made it through. um, did you make it through really because maybe the medicine or your body just fought it off, or you're not the first person to meet cancer in that situation? I'll say this real quick. I had a minister I was having a discussion with, right? He had a child. His child had cancer. Unfortunately, he had a member of his church who also had a child who had the same type cancer, right? Both kids were in a hospital together, right? So here's the pastor praying, obviously for his child, but praying for the other family's child too. And so he was telling me the story. He said, "Yeah," he said, "My child lived, their child died." And he said, "Yeah." Before you even asked, he said, "I didn't know what to tell them about why prayer seemingly worked for me and didn't work for them." So that's the kind of predicament that you get into when it's prayer doesn't work. And so what do you do in that situation, especially if you're a minister and you know the whole situation? And I can, and just having a conversation with him, I could tell that it bothered him. It really bothered him, because I know here's a person who's probably praying, knowing that yeah, God's gonna answer their prayer, not that his child was gonna live and other child was gonna die. So now, how do you face a member of your church who's gone through this with you? You prayed, your child lived, but their child died. So yeah, so those things. So that's something that came to mind. I'm just thinking about it. But yeah, absolutely. Anything, Tieesha?
That is deep. And that's one thing I found is those who do not have a solution or an answer to whatever dilemma you may be facing, they'll tell you to just go and pray. And recently, I had someone just dump all the F ups on me, and I'm coming back like, okay, why don't you do this? Why don't you do that? Well, you made that happen. The antecedent, the behavior. Now you got the consequence. And they're like, why you gotta be so evil? Why you gotta be so mean? I'm like, well, what do you want me to say? I'll pray for you. Yes, thank you. I'm like, well, I'll pray for you. And I hung up the phone and rolled over and went to sleep. And those who say, okay, there's healing in prayer and things like that. Well, why is it that when you're sick, especially when those who were sick over the past 2 years, they didn't go to church, they went to the hospital, they went to the clinic, they went to the urgent care. So when something happens to me, the last time I went to the hospital, my feet were hurting. I called the doctor. I didn't call the pastor. I didn't call the church. I don't need you praying for my feet. There are real things going on. I need to go to the urgent care. I need to go and make an appointment. It's wild how people just use prayer as this one all heal all, one all fix all, this solution to all of their problems. I want to give a shout out to everybody who has joined us too. Alonzo, we have Christine, we have Daryl, Sharon, in the Mix Radio. How are y'all doing? It hi to everybody who's going to watch the replay.
Yeah.
So I have, oh gosh, is this just so deep? The one thing I wanted to ask you. So once I came out of Christianity, there were things I had to take out of my vocabulary, like prayer and blessing and be blessed and holy is his name. And even when it came to putting on face cream, I was putting on the face cream and the sign of the cross. I'm like, oh, I ain't doing that no more. So I moved over to a different vocabulary. Can you tell us what's the difference between, let's say, someone who says like, I don't pray, I manifest, or I don't pray, I meditate. What are the differences between those, uh or words of affirmation or things like that? What's the difference between all of that? Or is
So
it safe to make that transition, that gradual transition, or what?
I think for most of us, I think it's hard for us to go or do what we call just cold turkey. And so I think when we do leave religion, we're all kind of searching for something, maybe a little religious light or a position that can can comfortably get us to where we really want to be. So me personally, I've gone through all those phases as well. I remember when I first talking about some of the things that we had to give up. I remember, and it's been really, a year or two that I actually just stopped saying my grace over food. I kind of mentioned it to my wife. I was like, you know what, this don't make any sense. And so I stopped doing it. But to answer your question, I went through the phases. I did affirmations, and I think affirmations to me is not uh, deity dependent. It's more about telling yourself this is who I am, and I do think that there is something into affirming who you are that helps you to get to where you want to be. I think that, and I was always as a kid, I was picked on. I wore thick glasses and I stuttered and a bunch of other stuff. And so I growing up in the hood, say per se, kids gonna pick on you. Kids gonna pick on you anyway. But my mother always, said positive things to me. You are handsome, you're smart, all these other things, and those things really helped me to get through that period of time through my school when people picked on me every day. It helped me to not believe the things that they were saying about me because my mother every single day affirmed me with those good words. So I do think there is something to that. But again, to me, that is deity dependent. I mean, that is not deity dependent. That is independent of a deity. The whole meditation, I did meditation. I still do meditation from time to time. But to me, my meditation is it's for me to calm myself. It's for me to look within me and ask questions of myself. Where am I? Where am I going? Where do I want to do? And it's just time for me to. It's a opportunity that I take just to be still and peaceful. So I do think that there are some differences to all that. And so I've been through all of those myself. I still meditate. I don't do a lot of the positive affirmations, but I think that's just part of my DNA that I think highly of myself without having to do the positive affirmations now. And part of that was probably because of what my mother did when I was a kid. Um, but I know that there are hardcore atheists out there that don't believe in any of it. They think it's all kind of the same barrel, whether it be affirmations or meditations or praying or whatever. They believe that it's all the same. And so I kind of differ in that. So yeah, it just depends, and I think we all kind of go through the phases. And I think one of the things, my wife, I mentioned before, my wife is kind of Buddhist. She practiced kind of Buddhism, and that works for her. And so I think I tell people all the time, I say I'm not anti-religion per se. I am for whatever works for you, as long as it's personal to you, and as long as it stays personal. But a lot of times that's not what's going on. Uh, so I don't know. I think something's going on with my computer. Did I get out of that? Uh-oh, I'm having problems.
No worries. They're having the same thing over here. I just got a call on
Okay,
the
got it.
FaceTime. Y'all was able to hear that?
I got out of it. I'm sorry. Something came up on my screen, so I forgot
Okay.
what. I apologize for that, but I'm back now. So
At the
yeah,
same
yeah.
time that happened over here. So I'm like, did you hear that? It happened at the exact same time.
Yeah,
So
I think that and for those of you who out there, please send in your comments and questions, and we can address those as well. But I think that for everybody, it's personal for each person and what they want to do. Christina said the presser did a good job with the brainwashing of religion. Absolutely, Christine. I'm sorry, absolutely. And even to the point where I would have discussions with black people, and they would justify us being Christians in this country by saying that Christianity was in Africa prior to the slave trade. And so I've done a video on that. I think on TikTok, and I've done it on my YouTube page. But we'll do a show about that as well here one of these days and really talk about the whole history of Christianity, where it
yeah.
actually started, and all of that. Also, religion is wrapped in insanity, and its participant will show deep
Deep
levels of
levels of.
depression and psychosis.
I tell you what, that is absolutely true. Like I actually went to the trademark website. As I know, I did my trademark myself for Timonics, but I thought that I came up with this term, but actually someone else has it, and it's actually a dead trademark. I really don't have the energy to go look for this term and try to obtain it. Brother Willie, I might pass it to you after we get off here and see if you want to go ahead
Okay.
and try it. But if not, yeah, we'll see what's up. But after I left at the times when I really needed a psychiatrist, when I really needed a psychologist, I didn't go to it. I went to church because Jesus is a healer. But then once I left, I'm like, damn, I need to go talk to somebody, and you're absolutely right. It would show deep levels of depression, psychosis, schizophrenia, all kinds of stuff, because as you saw, I'm in the car and I'm like, I will not leave unless I pray something bad is going to happen to me. Let me tell you, on that dang on job, I've been shot at a couple of times. I've been in multiple fights, a concussion, bigots, all that, and I'm like, reading from the Bible and praying before I cut on my cruiser didn't stop any of that. But
Yeah.
I let me start the shift and I didn't do it. Oh, it was horrible. My mind, like, it was this shit storm going on. Me to say a bad word, but yeah, things were horrible up there. And once I sought help from those who are qualified, those who maybe I need a prescription, just you need to address your problems head on. You can't hide it in prayer. You can't hide it in the prayer closet. You can't fast and pray it away. You have to deal with your BS. Okay. You got to deal with it.
So I think I wrote about this in the book, and this is something personal to my wife and I, and I'll mention it here. So what I grew up, like most of you guys who grew up in religion, we grew up thinking that people who had mental illness, that was just the devil had a hold of them, or they had done something and God was dealing with them, and the only answer was a prayer. And so I kind of grew up with that kind of mindset, and also being a black man growing up in the hood, we didn't go to professional people to get help mentally. We just didn't. We didn't go to psychologists or psychiatrists. We just did not go. And so I've told a story before. When we left the church, my wife and I, shortly after that, I found out that my sister and my mother-in-law had come together and was praying for us. We didn't know this, but my wife got sick. She had some issues going on, and we were told by those people, my sister and my mother-in-law, and then my mentor, who is a minister, great guy, great guy, love him to death. But he's one of my mentors, and we still talk. To this day. Um, but they said to us, the reason why this stuff is happening to your wife is because you guys have left the covering of God. And so we thought about it. We said, that whole indoctrination stuff is really strong. I'm talking, for me, it's 40 years of being indoctrinated with it. So I said, okay, my wife and I said, okay, let's go back to the church and let's seek some help. So we went back to we found this church not too far from us, and we went to this church, and every Sunday after Sunday school, they would form a circle around my wife. She had told them about the issues that she was having, kind of mental stuff. and they would pray and they would pray and they would pray and she would fall out. I mean, they would lay hands on her, all this kind of stuff. I mean, this went on for months and months and months, right? Then nothing happened, nothing changed. She still had the same issues. So we decided to go to my mentor. He's a minister. He has a church. So we decided to go to his church. He told me, he said, well, this is happening because you guys are not in the covering of God. And Willie, particularly, this is up to your wife because God wants you to be a spokesperson for him. Now, this totally pissed me off, but I didn't show it, but I was totally angry. I said, what kind of God is going to punish my wife to try to get to me? I said, that makes no sense to me whatsoever. But anyway, he, at the end of service that Sunday, he brought up these two other preachers, and they supposed to be these powerful intercessory prayers. They prayed for my wife. They had her stretched out on the floor. They laid hands on her. They did all this other stuff. The guy put his hand on my back, and I felt something hot. I don't know what it was, and I mentioned, I said, okay, whatever. But it just went on and on and on, and it was like, okay, this is gonna fix it. And again, nothing happened. And so my wife and I said, you know what? We're done. And so my wife went and actually got some professional help, psychologist, I forgot which one it was, but professional help, not affiliated with any church, not affiliated with any religion, a professional who had gone to school, had degrees, and she sat with my wife, prescribed whatever she needed to prescribe for my wife, and my wife started to get better, and she eventually got better back to her normal self. And this has been a few years ago and still kind of going on, but she's wonderful. She's great now. So that just shows you that, again, as a community, we talk about how is this thing detrimental to us. Seeking prayer to solve some of our physical and our mental issues can be detrimental if we use prayer and we don't go and get professional help. Um, Prayer is not going to fix your physical and mental problems. You have to go, and this comes from somebody who never believed in going to get mental help until it happened to me personally. And my sister kind of went through the same thing, and she's very religious, but I even told her, I said, stop with this going and let prayer fix it. Go get you some, your job will pay for it. Go and get you some professional help. My wife, when they got professional help, she got much better. So this stuff is, it's kind of, we kind of laugh and joke about it, but this stuff is serious. There are people who are really, really messed up for life because they've been told that their issues mentally is either from the devil or they're possessed, and that prayer will fix it. And all this time, they should have been going to seek a professional, a person that's trained in this that can really help them. And they either don't do it or waited too late to do it. So I encourage all of you, I don't care how deeply devout you are. If you have physical issues or mental issues and your church is telling you to pray about it, that'll solve it, they're absolutely crazy. Go find the professional help that you need to get. I'm not telling you what I heard. I'm telling you what I know. I'm telling you what I experienced firsthand. Go get the professional help. And so I now that I think about it, I remember growing up, we would see people who we would just label. I know you can't say the C word crazy anymore, but
Yeah.
we would just call them, you're crazy. But what it was is that it was um, undiagnosed mental illness that they never got help for. That the church either said, well, that's possessed, they the devil, or the prayer's gonna work, or Jesus is gonna fix them at some point. Those individuals should have been going to get professional help, and they never did. And so and then you see them. So a lot of, where I live in Atlanta, there's a lot of homeless outside of our community. And so when I'm driving up and down the main street there, I see a lot of people homeless. And my wife and I talk about it. My wife is, she has a medical background. We talk about just the mental illness that we see so much of, and these people have not gone to get mental help. And our community is just now starting to embrace going to get professional help for mental issues. And it is crazy. It is crazy that we've waited this long. But again, that shows you that prayer that we've talked about does not work. Does
That's what
not
I'm about to
work.
do. I had an idea. I want to invite Sister Angela. I went live with her a few weeks ago, how to stay sane during the holidays. So I would love to get the two of y'all back and talk about that. So I'm going to definitely reach out to her on that as well. I remembered how to switch it so that you can see the comments as they come up versus me putting them up
Okay.
across the screen. Yeah, I
Okay.
turned them off at one point in time because I don't know what happened, but I'm like, yeah, let me go ahead and get those up so that you're able to see them. I'm still left at what you said about Christianity light.
Yeah, I mean, people go through the phase. I mean, because again, all seriousness, um, this could be life changing for some people. I mean, it's like breaking up with a person that you've loved forever, and you find out that this person was not who you thought they were. I mean, there's a social element to it when you leave the church. There's a mental element to it when you no longer believe in this God or this deity to fix your problems. There's situations with family and friends, and you guys not talking anymore, not being friends anymore, or you feeling isolated or ostracized. I mean, there's so much that go into this, and so some people they're not able to just. And even for me, I wasn't just able to just okay, I'm totally done with it. Even with the whole meditation and affirmation part of it, there were still times that something bad would happen, and I was oh, is this God punishing me for leaving, whatever, or those things. So it is really strong. The indoctrination is powerful. It is designed to be powerful because it's designed to keep you where they want you to stay. Um, but yeah, so some people go through the steps. They do a slow transition out of it. A lot of times it begins with, okay, I left the church, but I still believe. Then it goes from, well, I'm not a Christian anymore, but I still have a relationship with God. And then it goes to, well, I don't necessarily believe in the Abrahamic God. I just believe in a higher power. And that's when you get into some of the other stuff. The higher power, is that the universe? Is that, what does that actually mean? And then it eventually fades out to whatever. But yeah, so yeah, whatever it takes for a person, like you and you talk about how my channel and what I was doing helped you. I tuned into a lot of other people and watched their stuff would really help me. Jeremiah Camaro is one of them, and I am still working on trying to get him on this show. Absolutely. So yeah, but his stuff, some other people, stuff I listen to. So yeah, so we all kind of need, we all have our own journey, but we all need to see people that look like us that left, the faith and the belief system, and we're still alive. We're not cursed. We're not walking around with three heads. We didn't,
We're not evildoers.
yeah,
We're
we're not
not out here
evildoers.
doing all that stuff, and yeah,
We're not,
that's what people think.
yeah. I mean, we're not Satan worshipers. I mean, it's funny. I mean, I never heard. Well, I'm not gonna say I never heard that, but if I don't believe in God, your God, Abrahamic God, why would I believe in your devil? So why would I, if I'm not worshiping God, why would I worship Satan? Because they're actually one and the same. But but you can't have one without the other. So why would I not believe in one and believe in the other? So yeah, it's just crazy stuff like that. But yeah, but again, what you and I attempted to do today uh, was to bring some practicality to whether or not prayer works, to address the issues about prayer, and then to talk about how believing in it can be detrimental to some of us. So I think really the mental health issue is really strong, because I remember growing up, I had a cousin, I had an aunt who had a stroke while she was pregnant, and so my little cousin was born. I was really young. I was probably teens. She was born with that's I'm sorry, I was reading the comments. An excellent book to read is Emancipation of a Black Atheist. I actually read that book. It was a really good book. That's one of the books I read in when I started my early journey. It was one of the few books I could find about a black person actually leaving. It's one of the few books I was able to find. But yeah, absolutely. But so back to so my cousin, she was born with all these deformities, couldn't talk, couldn't speak, or whatever. Again, my family highly, highly religious. They never got her professional help. And she actually spent all of her life up until we became adults in this back dark room that they kept her in. They changed her diaper, they did all this other stuff, even as she grew to be a teenager or whatever. And I don't really talk to that side of my family anymore. A lot of people have passed away. Um, I asked one of my aunts about her a few years ago, and before she knows, she's in some kind of home or whatever, but she has to be probably 40 by now. So it was just sad. Again, it was the whole, this is God, Jesus is gonna fix this, prayer about it, it's the devil, whatever, whatever, and not seeking professional help. That probably could have really helped her at the time.
That's one thing I wanted to talk about as well is since coming out of religion and like knowing that there's no power in prayer, when I see people post things or social media or have a chat with me, they'll come to me looking for solutions, for answers to their problems. And I do see that the most disrespectful thing you can say is I'll pray for you. I put up this little graphic where it's these stick figures. One is standing on a ledge and the other one is hanging on to the
Yeah, I
ledge.
saw that. Yeah.
And the other one's like, I'll pray for you. And the one holding on to the ledge is like, F you. Because
Yeah.
he's sitting there doing nothing. And I know I've seen a comment that once someone has left religion and left the church, you're cut off from just about everybody, and that's absolutely true. I've gone through that as well. There are people who walk around with my last name who want nothing to do with me because I don't want nothing to do with Sky Daddy. But you find a new community, and people respect you more. In my case, because I provide answers. And that's one thing that I've noticed when I see different posts on Facebook, like, okay, I lost a family member or something, you know, I don't say I'm sorry. I don't say my condolences because I kind of still think that's the same as saying I'll pray for you. It's like, is there anything of service that you need? How can I be of service during this time? And because once I stopped saying I pray for you, I said, I'll keep you in my thoughts and prayers. And then the next thought I have is about a cheeseburger. So that's a lie. So it's like, okay, how can I be of service to you? Do you need anything? What can I do? And I found that has built a stronger bond with people. And it's also shown that, okay, just because I don't believe what you believe, that doesn't make me a bad person. Not so I have anything to prove to anybody, but it just shows like, look, I'm about doing what needs to be done. I'm here for you, active service.
Yeah, I
So
think that is
pay
awesome.
attention to cries for help.
Yep, I think that is excellent. And it's something that I'll start practicing as well. And I would do that. I've done that before to close friends. How can I help? Uh, I think the whole prayer, I'm gonna pray for you, is also condescending at times. And then I've had people to use it sort of as a weapon. They get mad in an argument, debate. They have nothing else from a logical standpoint to come back with me, and they say, "Well, I'm just gonna pray for you." Whatever. Okay, I'm good. I always say I'm good. I'm good. Don't worry about it. I'm good. But yeah, I think what you presented is practical. How can I help you? How can I help you? Which is really what we want. Those of us who go on social media about incidents and all we want people to do is pray for us. I think that's kind of that's you might as well say I just want attention because it's no different because it ain't if somebody say how can I help, then that means a lot. That means a whole lot more. So yeah, it's just one of those things. Again, this platform, what we're doing on Wednesday nights, is designed to really help us, those of us who are trying to come out of that. Those of us who have questions, it don't necessarily mean you will come out, but you might still believe after all of this, but you still, you might go about some of your practices a little different, or you might think twice about certain things. Prayer is one of those things that I think that we should, do always be critical in our thought process about. What am I? Is this actually working? What am I giving this? Then some people might say, well, it don't cost you anything to pray. Yeah, it does because it messes with your mind. It puts your mind in a place that it doesn't need to be. It puts your mind in a place of dependency on something that's not going to come through for you. It takes away from you doing actual activity or actions that's going to help. I thought about those brothers who had talked about coming to the church and praying, and I said, instead of that, why couldn't y'all have gotten together and started walking the streets of the community and talking to young men? That would have been more practical. That would have been more helpful. Not saying that they didn't eventually do that, but why couldn't that be what you led with? Why couldn't you say, let's come together, brothers, meet me at the church, and immediately after we get here, we're going to walk the streets and talk to the kids in the community and find out how we can help them, as opposed to let's come together and have a prayer vigil. We've had enough damn prayer vigils in our community to last us to eternity, and it hadn't changed anything. It hadn't changed nothing. You know, we if there's anything that should make Black people walk away from Christianity, it should be the fact of no results from all of the prayers that we've sent up. I don't accept crumbs. I don't accept the fact that, okay, well, we made some progress. We're not slaves. First of all, we never should have been slaves to begin with. So I don't take that as solace. I don't take that as progress. I'm a human, just like the oppressors are human. So for us to get to the point where at least we're not slaves anymore, bull crap. We the first people on this planet. I don't accept it. And I told somebody that one day. They was looking at me like, well, we made some progress. I said, no, brother. I said, you are accepting of a position that we should have had as a birthright. Our people should have never been
We should have been left alone
enslaved.
from the get go.
Exactly.
Yeah, like
Um, so
un-F
it's
word withable. Okay, I'm trying to
Yeah,
say that word
exactly. Yeah, I
correctly.
know.
Like,
Exactly.
leave me
So
alone.
I don't accept that. So if there's anything, if you look at our history, understand our history, especially in this country, um, none of us, we should really be, we should be Christians because it hasn't worked for us. One of the things I know that you and I were thinking about talking about was the return on our investment, and maybe we'll do that at a later date. But yeah, part of that investment is our prayer, and we if our prayer was the stock market, and every time we prayed, we bought stock, we would be broke. We would be broke because it hasn't done anything for us. Everything that we have as a community, we've worked for it and achieved it ourselves as human beings without the help of an external deity. And I know it's going to make a lot of people mad. Well, maybe not the people that listen to this, but people who eventually get this, people who hear my conversation about it, I know they might make them mad because it's almost like it's blasphemy not to give credit to this God. It is blasphemy to say that praying to this God or begging this God doesn't work. It's like blasphemy. John Clark, during the 2020 uprising, the local chapter of the NAACP in my city was using the slogan "Push, pray until." I
Ugh.
really want to finish, bro.
I've seen
Pray
it. I've
until
seen it.
something happens. You know what? When you said NAACP,
I will spill my yak.
I automatically knew where this was going. I automatically knew where this was going. Yeah, it's. I don't. I, I think
That's
this.
when you know that people are coming to your community, coming to your area, coming to this problem with no solution. They're coming there, like you said, for attention.
Yeah,
And this day and time of social media, this one viral picture or everyone's looking for a photo op. That's what it was. They showed up to steal the show, to get attention, and
yeah.
there you have it. There was no tangible solution in store for y'all. Nothing.
John, one of the problems that I have with one of the many problems I have with our civil rights organizations is that they are too many of them are still led and controlled by generation baby boomers. Uh, and that's all that they know is praying and marching. And now they've become so spineless. Their fangs and claws, they've been declawed and defanged until all they have is for us to prayer. Sometimes, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but sometimes I believe that a lot of these people are put in place by the powers to be just to keep us at a place that they want us to be. They'll tell us, let's not use that tactic or that. Let's just pray about it. I don't believe in that. We are part of a revolution. I've never seen a peaceful revolution. I'm not advocating for war fighting, but I am advocating for us to stand up for ourselves and for us to do a whole lot damn more than praying. If we want to see significant changes, and we don't want our kids to be having these same conversations that we're having, that our baby boomer parents and greatest generation grandparents had. We don't want to have these same conversations. So yeah, I push pray just does this is it takes our soul, it takes our pride, it takes our fight, it robs us of what our enslaved ancestors had in Africa, which was the warrior mentality. Praying robs us of that warrior mentality that we had. Did faith replace the courage to fight? That's what I just said. D. Cheney, that's what I just said. It has robbed us of our warrior, of the warrior in us. It has taken our courage to fight. It has taken the fight away from us.
That is something I'm so glad that was brought up, because a part of the title, when I was thinking of the title for this video, something that came to mind was active surrender. And I'm like, let's look that up real quick, because I want to see if that applies to this as well. And I'm gonna
D
okay.
said victims pray a lot. D, you are absolutely
Yes.
right.
Share
Victims
my
do pray a
screen.
lot.
Yes. So I found this blog post, and it's called Anchored Foundry. It's by anchoredfoundry.com, and it's called The Act of Surrender. And I will post the link for this in the chat, and I'll try to remember to put it in the description for those who watch later. But it starts out like, all of us have experienced or currently going through a test or a trial in some form. This can be in your personal life, ministry, business. You're just going through something. And it mentions like, okay, this is a test, this is a trial. And further on, it speaks of how the Holy Spirit is here to get you through. And it talks about it says, speak these words to the Lord, ask the Holy Spirit to help you. He is a person, and he is more than willing to assist you on your walk with salvation in Christ, your walk home to be with the Father. And I'm just like, what the hell? So when I was thinking about prayer and how it looks, Brother Willie, on the cover of your book, you have the cross, and you also have a set of black forearms with chains around it. And one of the other, let me find which screen I'm on, because I'm like all over the place, which reminds me, every time we see something when it comes to slavery that's on like PBS or something like that, you always see that kneeling African in chains doing this. And I'm like, that is just an act of surrender. Like, why are you on your knees? Why aren't you standing? You're just waving the flag. Like, look, I surrender. I'm done fighting. And that's what surrender means. That's what I think about when I hear somebody say, I'm going to pray for the enemy. Why aren't you fighting the enemy? I want to just pray for the situation. Why aren't you attacking that situation so you have a favorable outcome? And this act of surrender, when I see anything with prayer, I know that these people ain't about that action. Not as far as like Nat Turner or Denmark VC or the Deacons of Defense. They ain't about no action like that. It's about wasting time and showing that you're soft. I mean, I know that sounds mean, but when I think of someone on their knees, unless you're praying Dr. Khaled's prayer, which is, I pray to shoot straight when it's time to shoot straight. That's a good one, but I see it as being, it's not beneficial. It's a time waster, and it's also an act of surrender. That's all I got to say about that.
So I told a religious group that I was I do this other group. They are part of this different religious group, and I do the Zoom with them every so often, and kind of go. And I'm always the contrarian of the group. I'm always saying something opposite of what they were saying. And so we got into this whole thing about praying for your enemy. And I said to them, and they all looked at me like I was crazy. I said, it is unnatural to pray or forgive your enemy. I said, it is unnatural and for you to pray for or forgive someone who's literally trying to take your life, trying to genocide your people, trying to annihilate you. It is unnatural. You don't see that in any other entities, animal species on the face of this earth. I said, and for you to expect us to do, especially those of us, the groups of like us who have been oppressed, it is absolutely insanity. And they looked at me like I was crazy. I said, I don't do it. I'll tell people, I don't know. I don't pray for my enemies. I don't forgive my enemies. You're trying to eliminate me. What I look like praying for you. What I look like, I said, that's weakness. So yeah, so I don't. Yeah, and I told them they thought I was. They was like, oh, really? That's I, you know they used to be now. I mean, they know, but I just that's it is what it is. That's how we have to be. But we've lost that. We've lost that, and so we're always trying to get along. And part of that getting along is, we're gonna do something for you. We're gonna pray for you. We're gonna forgive you. Other groups don't do that to us. They don't. They don't. They don't. They don't pray for us. They don't care about. They want to wipe us out.
Yes, they want the worst to happen to us to get out the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So yeah. But yeah. So it's one of those things that I again. What's the answer? How do we fix this? How do we change
Mhm.
this? I think the younger generation, they're seeing this. They are leaving the church in droves.
Yes.
They're fighting. They're literally fighting for the things that they should have had. And it's sad that they should have to fight this. This should have been resolved a long time ago. These issues that we have, but they're fighting it. And I think that unlike our parents or even people of my generation, uh, this is going to be part of their DNA as they
Mhm.
continue to get older because they didn't get indoctrinated like
Mhm.
I did, like my generation did, and the generation
Right.
before us did. We got indoctrinated with it. And, we got to be, teenagers and young adults, and we still had some fight in us. But
Right.
shortly after that, once we moved to the suburbs, we got a good job and graduated from college and had a kid, we lost all that fight and we were right back. We reverted right back to the whole, oh, we're just going to pray about it. And we lost that again. I don't think that these last two generations, I don't think they're going to do that. So, uh, I am a boomer, but I woke up. You're a boomer, all right. It's very few woke boomers out there. Very few, very few. And I'm generation. What's after boomer? X. I'm
Yeah.
generation X, and it's not a whole lot of us out there either. It's they we still we like I always said, we turned into our parents. We
Right.
turned into our parents. We look and act just like our parents
Oh,
did. But
I keep looking at myself on the screen. I'm like, dang, I look just like my mom. Like, oh my gosh, like, it's scary.
yeah, so we became our parents, but yeah, but it's some of us coming out. It's some of us that's coming out. At least there's enough of us that's starting to at least ask questions. Um,
Perfect.
so
For
I think it's great.
Yes. So to wrap up, I know that we want to send everybody. If you do not have a copy of Brother Willie's book, you need to go pick it up. It answered and just gave me confirmation on so many things because you do feel like an outsider when everybody has the prayer circle. I was bold enough to say like, yeah, go ahead and do you. I'm gonna stand over here. You are alone and you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm the oddball, but just know that you aren't. Brother Willie, what words of encouragement, advice do you have for those who may have clicked on this video and kept watching it until here and they're like, okay, should I pray before I go to bed? That's been my routine, or should I not? Will something bad happen to me? And what do you have to say to those of us who are, just out here? We're off the out of the madness. We're not drinking the Kool-Aid, and how can we be of benefit to someone else?
I think first of all, for those of us that are, those of you who are still in it and trying to come out of it, just embrace the journey. Find out what works for you. Ask questions. Read everything you can get your hands on. Not just my book, but there's a lot of other authors out there. We talked about Jeremiah Camaro. There's Achieva Hutchinson. She's out in California. There's a group here called Black Non-Believers. Mandisa, I forgot, Mandisa Thomas, I think, is over that group here locally. There are a ton of resources out there. There are an endless amount of YouTube videos out there about the subject. Tieesha just said, check out Contradictions and Holy Hierarchy by Jeremiah Camaro. Absolutely. But just embrace the journey, ask the questions, don't be afraid. Uh, all the stuff that they told us that to scare us, God is going to punish you, you're going to go to hell. All this stuff is man-made. Once you get over that kind of stuff, then you're good. So yeah, do that kind of stuff. Those of us who are already, crossed over, we're woke. Let's try to connect with more of us who think like us. I know it's difficult to be. I'm open and abrasive about my non-belief, but everybody can't do that. You know, family constraints, job constraints, relationship constraints, family constraints. I understand that. But you can also, but there are meetup groups, there are organizations, there are other groups that you can find that you can become part of. Even if you know you live in the South, I know it's hard to find those groups physically, but you might have to do some Zoom groups, some groups that are not based here in Georgia or in the South, but you can become part of those groups through Zoom or meetups or whatever. But there are some local groups that you can become a part of as well. Um, it's it's you never know. There are people who you might have a neighbor who's thinking the same way you're thinking. I had a guy, I met a guy, I got a new neighbor, and he lives in the town's community we live in. It's gated, so he goes outside the gate. He walks his baby. I think his wife works for a sports team here. But he one day I'm driving down the street and I get this long text from him, and he says that uh, Google sent me information about you because they see that we know each other. I don't know how they figured. I guess we exchanged phone numbers or whatever. And he said that the information they sent him had something to do with my book and this podcast. And he said, "Yo, I left religion about 7 years ago, and it led to this long conversation. And we see each other from time to time. We talk, and really didn't know, at the time. So there are more of us out there. Now he's probably 30, early 30s, but a lot of times people meet my wife and I, they think that we're a lot younger than what we are. So they kind of gravitate and have these conversations. But yeah, so we're going to have a conversation about it. It's like I said, you never know. There are other people out there that feel the same way you feel, have the same kind of questions. Let's try to connect with these people. That's why we have this space here for you guys to come on. Those of you who came on, thank you so much for the questions and the comments. Keep them coming. Please join us every Wednesday. Invite other people. Tell them to come. Let's blow this space up so that people know that every person of color, every Black person ain't on their knees begging God to fix their problems, So again, do that. Um, Pick up my book, Amazon, or you can go to Black Nubian. Also, if I am available for paid speaking engagements, if you have an organization or you put together an organization that people want to have someone to come out and speak on this topic, we can talk about payment at a later date or whatever. But I'm available. Would love to do it. What's that? Oh yeah, and my
Oh,
YouTube,
I'm like, get
my
at him, call him.
oh yeah. Call me. I got a buddy who's putting together a group. One guy's a director, but we had this long discussion at the gathering spot, and he got me going. And he was just like, "Yo, we gotta do this. We gotta get a bunch of people together so they can hear you talk about this stuff." So it's crazy, but yeah. So yeah, let's do that. Yeah, contact me about that kind of stuff. You want to do that, and also Tieesha's always trying to help me to remember to do this. Subscribe to my YouTube channel from Save to Sane. Um, please subscribe to my channel. And a lot of all these videos that we do here eventually end up on my YouTube channel as well. So you can see them on her channel. You can see them on my channel. I also have other videos that I've done as well. But yeah, so that is it for me. Thank you so much, Tieesha. It's on you.
You are so welcome. I really appreciate this. Had a phone call right before we went live, and someone said, "Tieesha, it's good to see you back. You're doing videos." Because I'm like, I couldn't figure out a way to get through the algorithm. I couldn't figure out a way to do this advertiser friendly content. And I just have to think about it. I'm like, that's not me. I'm not gonna conform again. So I really appreciate you shaking me like, come on, Tieesha, what's going on? Let's go ahead and make this happen and the enthusiasm that you bring. So I really appreciate it. If I have anything to leave y'all with and myself as well is, yeah, I troll at times. So I will do that. But however, I do, I encourage us to show respect because this is what, oh my gosh, wow, 8 years in the making, to get to this point. So I always have a soft heart for others. And that's one thing too. No, we're not here to take you from your belief system. You're not going to believe what I believe. I don't want you to. I want you to stay with what you're doing. You make that choice because if I take something from you, I got to replace it with something else, and I ain't got none over here. So you stick with what you know. If prayer makes you feel good, you do it. If I see you praying and you're around me, I'm going to respect your peace to do that to yourself. I will politely decline the invite depending on how I'm feeling, or if to keep the peace, I may just participate. It's not going to hurt me, but I want to, you know, spread just a tolerance and also a respect for each other. So that's all I have. And this was great talking about this tonight because of the things we see going on. And I'm like, okay, you confirmed it. I'm not praying for my enemies. I don't forgive you. I'm not going to sit here and pray about a problem that has a solution that I need to work towards. And I'm not going to comfort you and just tell you lies. I want to be truthful. And that's all I got. I am here. I am Tieesha Essex. Like I said, you probably found my channel through, a friend of a friend, or you may have found it from my first video, Wildlife Christianity, which is now a playlist on this channel. So check out my other videos over there. You can also check me out at Timonics.com for all your self-defense needs. And yeah, we will be back next week. And I will also see you in the chat for those who leave a comment or question on the video. I will respond to those. So that's all we got. We will see you
We have
on the next video.
We have a great topic for next week. And
Yes.
please support this sister. Please support her any way that you can. She is awesome. Awesome.
Well, I will see y'all on the next video. Y'all have a good night.
All right.